coming to you live from the pub.
Welcome to another episode of UCF Uncut. Today we are going to review the Jack State UCF game, Week 1 opener at the Bounce House. But first, let's take a look at the brew of the night. And we have here, You're My Boy Blue Classic. This beer right here is from a brewery called Florida Avenue Brewing Co. They are from somewhere near Tampa. UCF favorite hometown team as well in Tampa. We run Tampa, as we all know. Yeah, it's brewed in Wesley Chapel, Florida. Hopefully we can get some recruits from over there. It's a 5.3% blueberry wheat ale. Let's take a look. It's been a while since I've had this one. I have had this before. Got this at Publix. And yep, let's go pour this guy up here. See how we're looking. That can there. All right, brew of the night. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, yep. Just as good as I remember. Gosh, what's the rating going to be on this one? Blueberry wheat ale. I would say this is a good brew to start off the day. If you're hitting the beach, maybe 1, 2 at most. It's really flavorful. You taste the blueberry. Definitely a good beer. Maybe if you see it on tap, occasionally you can get it on tap. It's good. I would give it, for what it is, an 8.7 out of 10. And that's my final ranking on the beer of the night. All right, we'll keep this in the corner for a little bit, just in case you want to try it. 8.7, it's really good. All right, let's get into Jack State, Week 1. I've never heard so much disrespect from another Conference USA opponent against a Big 12 squad like UCF's getting against this Jack State team. I think people are confused when they're looking at this Jack State team. I think they think that this is the Jack State team from last year. They think this is the Jack State team showing up who just won the Conference USA title, but it's not. Most of not all of those players from the last year's Conference USA championship team from Jack State, which they won the title last year in the Conference USA, which as a conference has gone completely to the dumpster fire. They're horrible. But we'll talk about that later. So Conference USA. So let's look at where they were last year. They won the Conference USA title. Their head coach was Rich Rodriguez, who now has taken his coaching staff and himself and pretty much all of the talent that they had, the returning players on that roster that didn't graduate or go to the NFL, to West Virginia, which we'll play them later in the year, and we'll review them later in the year. But what everyone is saying online and what we're seeing so far in this matchup preview is, well, UCF has a whole bunch of new faces, and Scott Frost hasn't been a head coach in a while, so low expectations. Meanwhile, Jack State, they just won the Conference USA title. They're going to keep it close in this one. They're going to really hang in there with UCF at Scott Frost home opener in the Bounce House on a Thursday night, August 28th. They think they're going to come in there with last year's team and keep it close. We're going to get into this Jack State preview here. That's what this is about, right? So did a lot of research on the team that they're putting onto the field this year, and who left and where they're at, right? So they definitely have an overhaul. Very similar to UCF in the way that the roster's flipped, but UCF's roster, like I said before, if every person in the portal that returned at UCF wanted to hop in the portal, I would just be like, peace out. Good luck to you. Now, there was a few of them that I'm happy they stayed, but for the most part, when you're a 4-8 team, that's a losing culture. And all power to you if you want to leave. But for Jack State, they won their title game. Those guys all transferred out with the head coach, or they moved on. They graduated or went to the league. So they're kind of coming off of the flip side of what UCF's coming off of. Now they got a new coaching staff, and we're going to get into that. And let's kind of go through, their rebuild versus our rebuild, and who has more resources. Obviously, we do in the Big 12, but we are in very similar positions, but very different positions. So let's take a look at Jack State. Let's take a look at them. So a big chunk of their defense went to West Virginia in the portal. They lost 4 first-team all-conference players to graduation and to the NFL on offense, all on offense. So they lost their defense. They lost their offense as far as production from that championship team from last year. And their starting quarterback, Tyler Huff's gone. Their starting running back's gone. And they have an entire new coaching staff except one coach, the O-line coach, I think, left on the roster, on the coaching staff. So pretty much a whole new coaching staff, whole new roster. Let's dial in a little bit. Who is their new coach? His name's Charles Kelly. He was the former co-defensive coordinator at Auburn. This is his first game as a head coach in college football. First game. So, that says a lot. That's asking a lot. That is asking a lot, is to go into the bounce house, as a first-time coach and expect to have all the pieces together to take on UCF. That is going to be very, very challenging. Now, he was he was never a head coach. This is his first head coaching gig. And let's take a look at their recruiting class real quick. They are ranked 96th in Division I on 24/7 for 2025 commits. They have a handful of 3 stars and a whole bunch of no stars at all. So these guys are getting, UCF used to be in this boat, really trying to find diamonds in the rough. So not looking too good based on their commitment class for 2025. And let's take a look at their offensive coordinator, Clint Trickett. He was the passing game coordinator at Georgia Southern. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator at Marshall for 2 years. But this is the interesting part. At Marshall, when he was the offensive coordinator, they averaged 200 yards a game rushing on the ground. So what does that tell me? That tells me this guy likes to run the ball. I mean, he's going to be their offensive coordinator, and we're going to get into their offense, but usually when you don't have cohesion and you don't have quality skill players, you run the ball. Like George O'Leary, like just run the rock, right? So we can expect them probably to run the ball, just first glance. We're going to get into it. But so I'm like, okay, 200 yards, Marshall, kind of similar situation here. Maybe they think they're going to line up and just run the ball and try to find some success gashing UCF's defense. And hey, if I'm an average person just looking at this game and I look at UCF's tape from last year, I think that, I don't know, Adam Sandler could have ran for 200 yards on UCF's defense last year. They were just getting gashed all day, every day. They were bad. But this is not the case this year. This D-line is scary. It's a scary sight. So interesting. That's just interesting. Let's table that. The O coordinator likes to run the ball. That's their new offensive coordinator. And then let's take a look on defense for them. Their defense, they lost 5 all-conference players on defense that went to West Virginia in the portal. 5. all conference. So the best of the best on their team in Conference USA is now going to the Big 12. It's a big jump up. But they're not on this team coming to the Bounce House August 28th on Thursday night. It's not those 5 are not going to be on that defense. So a lot of spots open on that defense there. Now they have added in the portal, which you'd expect them to. I think that Conference USA Division I program, they are like great landing spots for guys who commit to SEC, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and then they don't get any playing time. And then they're like, all right, I want to play or I want a shot to compete. They might think that they're not going to play. And then they transfer to a place like Jack State. And they're like, hey, it's D1. I might start there and get reps. I'm going to hop in the portal and go there. And I think with who I looked at when they, their portal additions, we'll go over them. I would give their portal additions probably, I think they're ranked like very low, like 92nd in the transfer portal ranking for 2025. So not great. New coaching staff, that's a hard sell to get them to go there. Let's take a look. So they got a safety from Memphis who probably is one of their best pickups. We'll see how he does, but good safety from Memphis. They got a D lineman from Virginia Tech that they're hyping up online. And I looked at his career stats, and I didn't see any. I don't think he had a tackle at Virginia Tech. I think he's a sophomore coming into this year. So he was a freshman last year, didn't play at Virginia Tech at all, but they're very hyped up about him coming out of spring ball. And then TCU running back Cam Cook. We'll talk about him. And then they also got a Rutgers receiver who is 6'8", scary, 6'8", whoa, big target, 211, so really skinny. And I think he was like a freshman last year at Rutgers, minimal production. So yeah, let's look at their quarterbacks. Who did they add? Who do they have? They added Gavin Wimstat. Shout outs to Gavin, that's my name, so cool name. But let's look at those stats though. He transferred from Rutgers and Kentucky. First he was at Rutgers, then went to Kentucky. And he played at Kentucky last year. And then they also got this guy, Cade Cunningham from Memphis, 0 career stats found. They were confusing him with the NBA Cade Cunningham, looking him up online. But his stats, unless someone could find him, drop them in the comments. I didn't see any for Cade Cunningham in college. So from Memphis, I don't know. It's weird. Name sounded familiar, but basically everything's saying Gavin Wimstat's going to start for them. And if you take a look, we're going to look at his stats in a little bit. Yikes. Like Home Alone, woof, when I looked at those stats. And let's look at the receivers. Oh boy, returning receivers. I don't know who has a worse receiver room, UCF or Jack State. I'm kidding. But yeah, no, Jack State, their receiving production that's coming back is non-existent. Well, it is existent. There's a few guys, but brutal. Let's take a look here. So they have a couple returning receivers with less than 300 yards each that are slotted to be starters, plus the Rutgers transfer, the 6'8", 211-pound sophomore, coming in as a sophomore now with no experience really. So you got 2 receivers who had less than 300 yards last year on your team, and a sophomore coming in from Rutgers with very little experience who's 6'8" and weighs 211 pounds. That's it on offense for those receivers. So let's just keep looking. Now let's really dial in on their quarterback, right? I mean, if they're gonna have a chance to stay in the game against UCF, they gotta have a competent quarterback, or at least a game manager, and someone who's not gonna be careless with the ball. So let's see who they got. So Gavin Wimstat, right? Started at Rutgers, went to Kentucky. I looked at his stats from last season, and I can't believe how bad they are. I mean, if they put him out there and the bounce house is sold out and rocking, the return of the Mac, Scott Frost, and they put this guy out, let's take a look. His passing stats, at Kentucky. He was 16 for 39 on the season. So he had 16 completions on 39 attempts for 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 picks with a 24.5 QBR. Yikes. Brutal. What do they got? Uncle Rico out there? Like, that's horrible. A 24.5 QBR. He threw more picks than touchdowns. I mean, that's not going to get it done. And that's your starter because he played in the SEC at Kentucky. So let's take a look at his rushing stats. Not too good either. 49 carries for 183 yards and 3.7 average per carry with 2 touchdowns. So he's really not a dual threat. Like, that's not for his limited gameplay. Maybe a dual threat guy, but not too worried about him. I don't think busting loose and breaking one on our defense. He'll get hawked down. He's not going to go far. I think his long was a 24-yard scamper. So, okay. So quarterback, a 24.5 QBR. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. All right, let's take a look at the running backs. Well, there's not a lot of production there either. Their best running back looks like it's going to be this Cam Cook transfer from TCU. He had 460 yards last year and 9 touchdowns. So that might be one of their better pickups in the portal as far as, someone who might find success. But, nothing crazy. Didn't have over 500 yards. So we'll see. Was at TCU? Who knows? So running backs, nobody really to be afraid of. We're going to have a lot bigger threats that we're going to face. So that's it. Now let's look at their O-line. Basically, from what I've read, not a lot of returning starters. I don't think, if any, maybe have one. I think they have one returning starter and a whole bunch of young either transfers or guys who were on the team last year who didn't really play. So, like a big mix of subpar transfers. And we know how hard it is to get O-line guys in the portal. We are UCF under Gus Malzahn was horrible. We tried building an O-line, a makeshift O-line. It was like building a raft on a stranded island and setting it out there in the Atlantic during hurricane season with 30-foot swells coming in, just crashing the raft and trying to not let people get into the backfield and tackle 400-pound KJ Jefferson who couldn't throw 5 yards down the field. It was a horrible experience. That's a UCF fan, and it looks like they're in a similar position this year with their O-line. So, not looking good on their O-line for Jack State. Yeah, they got one returning offense starter, on the O-line. So, not good. So, overall, let's recap offense. They got a quarterback with a 24.5% QBR, whole bunch of receivers that are young. 2 receivers that are older. I think they're juniors and seniors, but they're returning with less than 300 yards last year. So they didn't play a lot, or they didn't get a lot of receptions last year. And then they got a lot of young receivers coming in to try to help, but no production from receivers. Very, very suspect O-line. Very little production from the running back room. So not too good. No tight ends that I could mention. So the offense is looking very, very suspect. So let's take a look at their defense now. This gets better. You think, oh, yikes, their offense is not looking good. Guess what? It might be even worse on the other side of the ball. We're looking at their defense right now, and I don't get this hire. People want to, give UCF a bad time about hiring Ted Roof. I'm sorry, I always get this wrong. Grinch. Ted Roof. I want to say Ted Roof, Ted Grinch. Alex Grinch. I don't know why I always say it. Alex Grinch. All right. We get a hard time for Grinch. They went out and hired the former Maryland D coordinator last year. Maryland's D coordinator last year now is the D coordinator of Jack State. I don't know if there just wasn't any D coordinators out there and they were going down the list calling all Power 4 schools and we're like, well, somebody's got to take the job if we throw him a bag. Like maybe this guy will jump ship. let's look at all the Power 4 D coordinators and let's rank them from the worst up top to the best, and we'll start at the top with the worst. And let's see. I think that's how they got this guy. So Brian Williams is the coordinator. Last year, he was the coordinator in Maryland. Let's look at how Maryland's defense was last year. Well, you can guess it. We're not talking about basketball. We're talking about football. They were bad. They were really bad. Out of 134 teams in Division I, they were 105th ranked to defense. They allowed 30.4 points a game. That's a whopping 30.4. They allowed, on average, 386 yards a game. Brutal. You're not going to win many games like that. So I don't know what they saw in him, but they hired him. That's great for UCF. Please bring them in. Teach all of them, all of those great techniques to be 105th out of 134. And that's with a Maryland recruit. Imagine what they're getting at Jack State to put out there. It's not going to look good for them. It's not going to work out. I can't believe it. But maybe because he's a Power 4 guy, they hired him. I'm not sure. I'm scratching my head on that. So that's their D coordinator. Not good. Let's take a look at their D-line. Looks like they have a bunch of young, inexperienced players. You know, you look up Jack State, and there's the one recruit from Virginia Tech that came over from the portal on the D-line, Curtis Perry. Google Curtis Perry. Okay. How much tackles did he have last year at Virginia Tech? Goose egg, 0. I didn't see any. So he's young. Never played it. I don't even know if he played. I don't think he's ever played a snap in college football. So he's a sophomore, didn't get any clock at Virginia Tech, and he's coming over, and they're relying on him to be the anchor on the D-line. I know they got 2 or 3 other guys that weigh over 300 pounds on the D-line, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes against UCF fast. I hope they can keep up. And then you look, so their D-line is looking very bad, very inexperienced. They're going to get blown off the ball against UCF. You'll see. I mean, we're going to see it. Next, you go to their linebackers. This is great. They're hyping up this transfer that they got from Georgia Tech. I'm like, oh, cool. They got a guy from Georgia Tech. His name's Jacob Cruz. I'm like, all right, let's see what he did at Georgia Tech. 1 total tackle. 1 total tackle. The Turf had more tackles than this guy last year. 1 total tackle for Georgia Tech last year. So that's going to be your leader on the defense at the linebacker spot. He's going to be a sophomore, very inexperienced. They are returning a junior. I guess this is their best player at the linebacker spot. Morven Joseph, he had 18 tackles last year, but nothing crazy. So we'll see. Not a lot of experience at linebacker either. And then, take a look at corners. They have 1 corner coming back who's a sophomore. He had 3 picks last year. And besides that, it's all new transfers and corners. So, again, very young, very little experience. So his name's Gamir Latimer, 3 picks. Not bad for a freshman. He's going to be returning, I believe, as a sophomore now. So, all right, keep an eye on him. Let's see. And they're at safety. They did. They got a safety from Memphis, right? Taylor. And they also have a returning player named Patrick Taylor. It's a little confusing, but their returning safety, Patrick Taylor, he started 11 games for them last year, so that's one of their returning players. He had 34 tackles and 0 interceptions. So he's probably one of their more leader experienced guys at safety. So if I had to pick a strength for them, it's probably their safeties. So we'll see. So that's pretty much the overview of their defense. So let's kind of look at, where we're at right now. Let's recap. We got a new head coach that's never coached 1 college football game for Jack State coming into the Bounce House against Scott Frost. We have a D coordinator who's never we have a D coordinator who has not found success at the Power 4 level. He was 105th best defense in D1 last year from Maryland. He got hired. So he's going to bring his play calling to Jack State. So we don't know about offense. Defense, we'll see. We know they like to run the ball. Their offensive coordinator like to run the ball at Marshall. So let's think about this. They have an inexperienced quarterback, and they do have the running back from TCU who had 9 touchdowns last year. So I guess the idea is going to be what I would assume their game plan is going to be is limit mistakes, try to run the ball with Cook, and maybe take a shot down the field once or twice and try to run clock, keep it close, and try to get some points on offense. Defense, they're going to try to stop the run, right? I mean, this is like obvious. They're going to try to stop the run and then create havoc and possibly get some turnovers. So like our offense with Jackson and his dual threat ability, and then, you know, our burners at receiver that we know have speed against a very young secondary. And then our running back room is going to just absolutely feast with our O-line off the ball, just absolutely moving Jack State off the ball. So I think we're going to be able to run the ball at will, which is going to open up the pass. I think our tight ends are going to feast. Our quarterback won't need to use his legs much, but it'll be there. I think it's going to be an exhausting game for Jack State and their D-line. All right, we're going to move this. You're my boy, Blue. He's out of here. Go check that one out if you get a chance. But yeah, so basically, we're going to move the ball. They're not going to be able to stop the run. You know, misdirection type stuff. If I was UCF with what I see here, I would run the ball a lot and misdirection, a couple screens, get our playmakers the ball in space, and then go over the top and burn them and just keep UCF fast paced, quick snaps, quick momentum, and create mismatches. And run up the score on them, make a statement. I think the line is like 16.5 last I checked. UCF's favored. So very interesting. They think that it's going to be somewhat of a close game. But like historically, if you look at UCF home openers, even under pretty much all the way back since like Scott Frost. I mean, Scott Frost, O'Leary, Malzahn, and now Frost. We usually, against an opponent we should beat up on, we do in our openers. So I wouldn't be shocked if we put up over 50 on them. And I know that's crazy because you're like, we don't even know who our quarterback is. I know it's Jackson. We don't know much about our receivers, but our running back room, our O-line, our head coach, our QB coach, our receivers coach, like I believe that they know we have the talent, and now we have some good coaching and development, and it's going to pay dividends, especially against this Jack State team with very little experience on the defensive side of the ball. So we're going to move the ball. We're going to run the ball a lot. I would run the ball a lot. I don't think they could stop the run. So if it's working, just keep running it, and then hit them with the pass, play action or something, and we should be moving, no problem. Now on defense, this is even better, and it's crazy to say this, but if they think that they're going to trot out in the bounce house a QBR with a 24.5% completion rate, 24.5% QBR, with more picks than touchdowns last year, and he really doesn't have the mobility, what do you think is going to happen when Sincere Edwards blasts through this O-line of makeshift bottom of the barrel D1 O-linemen? I predict Sincere Edwards is going to have himself a game. Let's go 7 tackles, 3 sacks, a forced fumble. That's my stat line for Sincere Edwards. They're going to have to try to figure out. They're going to have to double him up or something. I don't know how they're going to stop him. So good luck on that. John Walker, Kelly, they're going to feast. Buddy from Colgate, little Zach Thomas, oh man, he should find success here. Especially, this is kind of like a lower level opponent. Someone like a Colgate would usually play, maybe, where he'll just rack up 11 to 12 tackles and have himself a day. So that'll be fun. So they're not going to be able to really do anything on the ground against that D line. So they have to throw. This guy threw more picks than he had touchdowns, and he's very inexperienced. Is accuracy going to be an issue for him? Probably. With that pressure surrounding him, and if he really doesn't have that dual threat ability, he might be in trouble, and it might get ugly quick. I'm going to go ahead and throw out there, probably turnover-wise, 2 fumbles, 2 picks, 4 turnovers. And that's just a conservative estimate of how this is going to go for them on that Jack State team. It's going to be brutal. If I'm a Jack State fan, I'm staying at home. I'm not even coming to the bounce house. It's a fun atmosphere. I mean, I would go if I was a Jack State fan and want to have fun. People are friendly. Like, you're going to have a good time. You could tailgate. Like, it's a vibe. Definitely Thursday night home opener, Scott Frost returning. I would go, just to have fun. You might have a good time at the party, like before the game. But once the game starts, it's misery for you as a Jack State fan. So that's just how it's going to go for you guys with this matchup with this quarterback. The best case scenario for Jack State is they just give the ball to this TCU running back who had success and hope that he can kind of RJ Harvey you to stay close and run the ball and break off a couple of runs and help give you some breathing room and keep your defense off the field. And then let's think about it. So if they can't run the ball, they're going to have to throw the ball. And then, we got some ball hawk safeties, and our corners are solid with experience. So I think they're going to have a lot of problems moving the ball. I think they're going to have a really, really hard time here on offense. So their offense is going to have a hard time, and they're going to put their defense on the field a lot. And then their defense, their D-line is going to get blown off the ball, so they're not going to be able to stop the run. They're not going to get any pressure on Jackson, so he's going to have all day. So he can run it, he can throw it. We're going to hit him with misdirection. It's going to be a long day for their defense. They're going to be very tired. This is going to be a night game, and it's going to be hot. It's going to be Florida summer, late August, hurricane season. It's going to be brutal for them. Overall, just a quick overview, looking at this matchup, it's a huge mismatch, even though people think that we have a whole new roster at UCF and there's so much uncertainty. There's really not. A lot of the players on UCF's roster are, we know the deal. We know the deal with the running backs. Like, yeah, they're young, but also we have experience at running back with Nixon, Montgomery, and then we got we sprinkle in the young speed. We're looking good. And our O-line's solid, our quarterback's going to be solid, and people are going to be like, oh, okay, I see why UCF went out and got Jackson. He's an absolute baller, dual threat. Like, he sat behind Curtis Rourke, and it's his time. He's ready. So, yeah, he'll feast. So, final score prediction, and this is a conservative prediction, very conservative. We're going to go UCF 45 and Jacksonville State 13. So it's going to be 45-13 final. I think Jack State might punch a touchdown in late. I think it's going to be brutal for them. We might put up 50 on them as a statement and keep the ball rolling. And then, we're going to get into the rest of the schedule coming up soon, but that's just the overall, update on where we're at. So go Knights, charge on. Can't wait for the game. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. Later.